Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air. Tuesday.
Buy Canadian is something that people are really jumping on board with, subscribing to, and you love to see it. Maple Leaves just dotting every checkout and every grocery aisle that you can see. But it's not just stuff in the grocery store. We're looking to find out where things came from. Is it Canadian on all kinds of products? There's actually a couple of different apps that were developed in a hurry and, continue to be improved upon and developed by a couple of different groups out of Edmonton. Just recently, one was called Shop Canadian, and the other is called Check the Label. And both, the idea is it really empowers you to know where things are from, and with a kind of a crowd-sourced, informational kind of way, where, manufacturers themselves, if people are proud of their Canadian-made products, and why wouldn't they be, they can, of course, share their information on this kind of thing. There's several other apps that have popped up and everything. Pick your favorite one, the one that makes the most sense to you. And then, people can also share what they found on the app with others so that others can kind of glean the same information, make the same choices, or at least have the opportunity to make similar choices to buy Canadian. I love it. It's so fun and really surprising to find out just how many products we buy that aren't Canadian. I think the creators of some of these apps have said, "What? We're shocked just as much as you." And it's a happy opportunity to change those habits and to get a little bit more money circulating just right here in our nation. So buy Canadian, and in the case of these apps, download free Canadian as well. It was the sketches where they remix things for me. It wasn't just returning characters and, revisiting some of those major sketches, some of them very recent hits like the Domingo Espresso thing, Sabrina Carpenter and everything, Pedro Pascal adding into that sketch for the new version. And then you've got like remixes from the old and the new. You've got Amy Poehler and Maya Rudolph. Now that's already like 10 years old, the Bronx Beat bit, but that was paired up with Mike Myers in character as the host of Coffee Talk, and then you've got Meryl Streep making her SNL debut as the mom of Kate McKinnon's Colleen Rafferty UFO abduction survivor. Things like that. Really, really incredible moments. There was a lot of highlights. I thought the one that made me laugh the hardest was the sincere introduction to, and then of course the following montage and reel of all of those moments in memoriam that really aged terribly over the last 50 years of SNL.
But even though these characters, accents, and let's just call them ethnic wigs, were unquestionably in poor taste, you all laughed at them. So if anyone should be canceled, shouldn't it be you, the audience? Something to think about.
When Tommy Hanks is right, Tommy Hanks is right. All over the internet, everywhere I go, there's new SNL 50th anniversary clips to look at. If you did not catch the show over the weekend, very worthy of watching through. It was quite incredible to see, especially for anybody who was raised on SNL. I mean, it's older than I am, obviously, but I was, very young, watching every one of those episodes. Dad had them on tape, VHS, taped right from the broadcast. NBC, don't worry about it. But also, don't worry about this clip I'm about to share. It's just a little snippet of the song that Adam Sandler sang called 50 Years, which was really encompassing the feelings of the entire evening.
30 years of Downey, 45 years of Lorne, 6 years of our boy Farley, 5 of our buddy Norm, 50 years of one of us getting to say live from New York, it's Saturday night, 50 years of standing on home base, waving goodnight and goodbye.
And we'll end it there before we do incur the wrath of the National Broadcasting Corporation down south. But he ended it off saying 50 years of the best nights of our lives. Really, really touching tributes. An incredible special to celebrate half a century. One of the funniest shows on TV, depending on the cast.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
That crash landing in Toronto Insane. The complete nightmare of a situation. I can't even imagine. Thank goodness no one died. You see the footage and you wonder how that's even possible. If you don't know what's going on, it's all over the internet, but there's a plane that was landing at Pearson International Airport just over the weekend, and just yesterday hit hard. I guess something was wrong. Accounts have it that the wind was low at the time of the event, but Toronto was just getting absolutely destroyed by like winter storm winds and stuff just prior, and a lot of snow as I take it, but the runway seemed not great. I'm not an expert, but just from my eyes only, looked a little snowy, not great, and the plane lands very hard. It seems like the landing gear fails, the plane rolls over onto its roof, there's fire and smoke, it comes to a stop, and then, of course, rescue operation able to begin. And again, thank goodness, no casualties, several injuries, however, and we're wishing that everybody, comes out well from that, and also all belongings returned as much as possible. This is why there's a seatbelt light. There's a seatbelt light for a reason. People are all too eager to jump out of that and disconnect that, debuckle that. May none of us ever experience anything like this. Just absolutely nuts.
It's time for Cruz Music News with Steve Reeve.
You may have heard about former guitarist for the Eagles, Don Felder, having a medical incident. It got a lot of attention because it happened on stage. He was performing during a Rock Legends cruise just last week, and a video shows that as they were introducing Tequila Sunrise and reminiscing, there was a bit of a moment where he seemed to lose balance and was taken off stage. There has been a statement now that has been issued saying thank you to everybody for the concern. He was suffering from dehydration and is feeling much better now. It's good news. Nick Cave in the news because, not too long ago, about a month or two ago, he did say that he wanted to have a certain Kanye West song played at his funeral. Since then, Kanye West has kind of exploded in news stories about just embroiling over with anti-Semitism and horrible things like that. Nick Cave went on to answer somebody asking, how can you have the music of somebody so deplorable, in your life? He went on to say that there's absolutely common ground, and there's evils of Nazism, of anti-Semitism, why it's wrong to sell certain T-shirts, things like that. There's common ground that they can agree, but he also doesn't believe in separating art from artists, and that also art can be judged on its own merits, while also understanding that the people creating that art might be problematic, to the extreme in some cases. And finally, Billy Idol announcing one headlining show in UK for all of 2025. He's going to be headlining in London on June 24th, part of the Forever Now Festival. And tickets, of course, are going to be announced and on sale for those that are in the area before too long. Got a spoiler-free Steve review of a brand new movie headed straight to streaming. I mean, it did go to some theaters, just none anywhere near us. The Gorge. Very strange movie. It was directed by Scott Derrickson, stars Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy, and even has Sigourney Weaver in there as well, which is an interesting casting because it very much reminds me of her character from The Cabin in the Woods, or really just the organization that she represents in that, which is kind of like this military-industrial complex that's standing in the way between humans and the end of the world because of some sort of ancient evil. It's kind of the vibes you get to start this movie, at least, as two, snipers who are a little bit lost in the world are picked up to do a year stint guarding the Gorge. What is the Gorge? Great question. You're gonna find out in every way possible during this movie, but I do love this fact of the matter. They didn't tell you everything in the trailer. Thank goodness. There's been several movies that I've seen lately where there's just a little piece of information that they put into the marketing of the movie. I get it. They're trying to make sure people watch, people get their butts in seats, or people click onto it, as is the case here with an Apple TV Plus original. But then you watch the movie and there's a moment where you go, wow, this would have been a cool moment if I hadn't known this, this piece of information. Case in point with The Gorge, they don't show you anything beyond a certain point in the movie, which then you watch, makes you really interested in what you're watching because you weren't expecting anything. Very weird movie that came out on February 14th and has Valentine's Day at heart, even though it's not really a romance movie. I highly recommend, especially if you got the subscription already. Hey, you're not paying anything.
Wednesday.
The big question for the week What is the ideal work shift for you? Sometimes, you make that money, you got a little bit of something to spend, but you feel like you've got command of your expenses and that nothing frivolous can get through your armor that you have developed. And then, right in between the plates of armor, you see a marketplace ad for a Gravitron ride from the 90s for $80,000. And your brain actually starts opening up a new tab and going, hey, what if we could do that? It's not, no, it's not possible. And still, the urge is there. The yearning persists. Well, we've got some new Led Zeppelin footage unearthed after many, many years. 45 of them specifically. Apparently, an 8mm clip taken from Denmark in July of 1979 has been in a shelf, in a drawer, for 45 years. Still in the possession of the original fan who captured it, named Leonard Strom. He revealed that this existed last summer. It has since then been, scanned and digitized and even paired up with some other audio from that concert, both of which provided, bootleg style. This was not authorized recording. In fact, this was a warm-up set. There was a couple of concerts that were performed here before there were actually some Nebworth UK shows the following month that were actually filmed, with the band aware, the band completely having knowledge about it. The paired video from Copenhagen in 1979 now shared online for everybody to enjoy on YouTube. Never trust when a rock star, when a musician says they're retiring, because they're so often going to come back for something. Paul Simon, the latest to do it, now announcing a North American tour 7 years after his retirement in 2025. It's going to be called the A Quiet Celebration, taking him across North America from April to August. And we're not really going to scrutinize if it is a true North American tour, but there are some stops, and they are Toronto and Vancouver. In memory of Rick Buckler of The Jam, many artists and musicians who collaborated with him are sharing their outpouring of support and love for the family. It was a sudden death following brief illness, as confirmed by the surviving bandmates Paul Weller and Bruce Foxton.
Hey Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
A lot of push to buy Canadian, and people are, wrapped up in the movement. I think it's great. And I don't think this is happening all too often, but there is a case here and there where there's pressure. This buy Canadian pressure is being then put onto the small businesses, and some, don't have readily available options north of the border for everything. This is a process. A Calgary art supply company has gone on record saying that there just aren't many Canadian-produced yarns available for the artisan storefront. Sure, there's an industry and some gets supplied to clothing, manufacturing, textiles, but nothing really available all that readily for the storefront for people trying to buy the stuff to make craft. Not everything can be can be from Canada at the drop of a hat. It's about just trying. It's about taking that little extra time to try to uncover those Canadian options or work together with other Canadian businesses to see what can be done to bridge those gaps, to make those deals happen. We might actually see BC wine crossing borders, that kind of thing. You move the mountain one stone at a time. So do ask if products or supplies are Canadian, but don't berate anybody if not every little thing makes the Canadian grade. You're still buying Canadian by supporting a small business, Well, the world is a little less bright after an absolute rock star of the shelf-stable prepared foods world has left us and is no longer alive. His name, Francesco Ravella. What did he do? He invented Nutella. That was not intended to rhyme. That feels like it's taking away from it. A man has died, but he did lead a long life. He's dead at the age of 97. He was born in Italy, started working for Ferrero in 1952 before it became a huge international brand, a huge name. He was a chemist. He had graduated from the University of Turin at 25 and started off in Ferrero's chemistry room, where some different creations have been made over the years. And yes, he invented the chocolate hazelnut spread that we all love so much. So, we thank Francesco Ravella, and we're definitely going to have some Nutella today. It rhymed again! I swear, I'm not trying to do that.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.